The rain had just started when Ethan Moore carried the last box into the apartment. The sound against the window was soft but constant, filling the air with a strange comfort. He paused in the doorway, taking in the small living room, bare walls, a second-hand couch, and the faint smell of new paint. It wasn't much, but it was his first real step toward independence. And he wasn't doing it alone. Liam Carter appeared from the kitchen, holding 2 mugs of coffee. "Figured you might need this," he said with an easy grin. He had that casual confidence of someone who always seemed to know where he belonged. Ethan took the mug, mumbling a thank you, and watched Liam drop onto the couch like he'd lived there forever. They'd met only a week earlier through a roommate app. Liam was a personal trainer, outgoing, athletic, just recently out of a long relationship. Ethan was quieter, a graphic designer who spent most of his time working from home. On paper, they made sense. In person, Ethan wasn't so sure. Liam's presence filled the room like sunlight, and Ethan wasn't used to that kind of warmth. That first night, they talked about rules and chores, but the conversation drifted. Liam was easy to talk to, even when he didn't say much. His laugh came easily, his stories meandered, and he had a habit of locking eyes just long enough to make Ethan forget what he was doing. Ethan tried to focus on the words, not the smile that came with them. Later, when Liam went to bed, Ethan lingered in the living room, sipping his coffee and staring at the rain. He told himself this was normal, just 2 roommates getting along. Still, a quiet unease grew somewhere beneath his ribs. Over the next few weeks, their routines intertwined effortlessly. Liam's morning started early. He'd leave for the gym before sunrise, leaving the apartment smelling faintly of cologne and coffee. Ethan's work kept him glued to his laptop most days, sketching brand logos and digital mock-ups while Liam's music hummed faintly from the other room. They shared dinners, jokes, stories. Liam would sit on the counter while Ethan cooked, teasing him about the amount of garlic he used or asking if he'd ever date a client. Ethan laughed, deflecting every time, hiding behind sarcasm. He didn't tell Liam the truth, that dating wasn't simple for him. Not when the person across the table made his pulse stutter. One night, after a long day of work, Ethan found Liam sitting on the balcony, a beer in hand and a blanket draped around his shoulders. "You ever just wonder if you're doing it right?" Liam asked without turning. Ethan leaned on the doorway. "Doing what right?" "Life," Liam said, finally glancing over. "Relationships. Moving on. All of it." Ethan joined him, the night air cool against his skin. "I think everyone wonders that. Especially after something ends." Liam chuckled softly. "Yeah. Sophie used to say I never took anything seriously. Maybe she was right." He looked away again, eyes lost in the city lights. Ethan didn't know Sophie, only her name, spoken sometimes in passing, always with that quiet ache that never quite left Liam's voice. He wanted to say something comforting but didn't trust his voice not to betray too much. Instead, he said, "Maybe she just didn't see the serious parts." Liam turned toward him then, really looking at him, and for a second Ethan felt completely exposed. But Liam only smiled. "You might be right." The silence that followed wasn't uncomfortable. It was the kind that hums with something unspoken, something fragile. Ethan excused himself first, afraid to stay any longer. Days passed. Their friendship deepened in small, unintentional ways. Liam started asking Ethan's opinion on his gym playlists, on his outfit choices before going out. Ethan found himself cooking extra just to share. They watched movies that turned into long conversations about everything and nothing. That it was easy to forget, in those moments, that Ethan was hiding a part of himself. Until the reminders came, like the offhand comments Liam made about girls or the teasing questions about Ethan's mystery love life. Ethan smiled through them, careful, rehearsed. One Friday night, Liam invited a few friends over. Ethan stayed polite, quiet, blending into the background while they drank and laughed. The conversation shifted to dating stories, and one of Liam's friends nudged Ethan. "What about you, man? You seeing anyone?" Ethan froze for half a second too long. Liam noticed. He's too busy working, Liam said, rescuing him with a grin. Probably married to his laptop. The group laughed. Ethan smiled weakly, grateful and mortified all at once. Later, when everyone left, Liam found him cleaning up bottles in the kitchen. "Hey," Liam said softly. "I didn't mean to put you on the spot earlier." "You didn't," Ethan lied. Liam studied him for a moment, his voice gentler than before. "You're hard to read sometimes, you know that." "Maybe that's a good thing," Ethan said with a half-smile. "Maybe." Liam hesitated, then added, "You ever think about dating again?" Ethan's throat tightened. "Not really. Someone must have hurt you pretty bad." He wanted to laugh, to make it sound casual, but the words caught somewhere between his heart and his mouth. "Something like that." Liam nodded, eyes lingering on him longer than they should have. "Well, whoever it was, they messed up." Then he smiled and turned away, leaving Ethan standing alone in the dim kitchen, unsure if he'd imagined the weight behind those words. Over the next few days, Ethan noticed things he hadn't before: the way Liam's eyes softened when they talked, the way he stood a little closer, how he seemed to wait for Ethan's reactions. None of it was deliberate, but it was enough to make Ethan's thoughts restless at night that he tried to remind himself that Liam was straight, that these small gestures meant nothing. But one evening, as they watched a movie on the couch, Liam leaned back, resting his head against Ethan's shoulder for just a second before laughing it off. "Man, I'm exhausted," he said. Ethan's pulse raced. He said nothing. After that, the air between them changed. Not drastically, but enough that Ethan noticed. Liam's teasing carried an undertone he couldn't name. Conversations lingered too long. Their laughter faded into silence that neither dared break. Then, one morning, as Ethan was heading out, he overheard Liam on the phone. His voice was low, uncertain. "No, Sophie, it's not like that. He's different, okay?" Ethan froze in the hallway, the words echoing like a warning that he waited until Liam hung up before stepping out, pretending he hadn't heard. But the rest of the day, the question haunted him. Different how? That night, Ethan sat alone on the balcony, watching the lights flicker in the distance. The rain had returned, steady and quiet. Behind him, the apartment was still, but he could feel Liam's presence even from the other room. Something had shifted. He didn't know what it meant yet, or how far it would go, but the certainty that nothing would stay the same settled deep in his chest. And when Liam's door opened softly a moment later, Ethan didn't turn, he just listened to the sound of his footsteps approaching, slow and deliberate, as the night stretched between them like a held breath. The apartment had grown quieter since that night. Conversation still flowed easily between them, but beneath the laughter there was a new awareness, an invisible thread neither of them mentioned but both could feel. Ethan sensed it in the way Liam lingered near him, in how their eyes met and darted away too quickly, as if both feared acknowledgement would make it real. Liam's routine hadn't changed, but the energy around him had. He'd pause in the kitchen doorway while Ethan worked, watching longer than necessary before asking something trivial, about dinner, or a song playing in the background. When Ethan caught him looking, Liam would smile, casual and easy, though his voice would soften slightly. It should have felt harmless. It didn't. One evening, Liam came home later than usual. His hair was damp from the rain, his clothes wrinkled. He dropped his gym bag near the door and sighed. "You ever have one of those days where everything feels off?" Ethan looked up from his laptop. "Only every other day." Liam chuckled and sank onto the couch. Sophie texted. "She's seeing someone new." There was a pause, quiet and steady. Ethan set his computer aside. "Are you okay with that?" "Yeah," Liam said too quickly, then shook his head. "I don't know. I thought I would be. Guess I just didn't expect it to sting." Ethan sat across from him, studying the way Liam's hands fidgeted with his phone. He wanted to reach out, to offer something comforting, but he didn't trust himself to keep it simple. So he said softly, "Sometimes it's not about wanting them back. It's just the part of you that hates being replaced." Liam's eyes lifted, thoughtful. "You sound like you've been there." "Everyone has, I think." Not everyone talks about it like you do. Ethan smiled faintly, uneasy under the weight of Liam's gaze. Maybe I just overthink things. Maybe that's why you notice things other people miss, Liam said. The words hung between them, too deliberate to be casual. Ethan turned away, pretending to adjust a pillow, though his heart had started to race. Over the next few days, that subtle current only deepened. They spent more time together, long walks after dinner, late-night talks that drifted toward personal confessions. Ethan found himself revealing small truths he rarely shared: the loneliness of pretending, the fear of being misunderstood, the exhaustion of hiding. One night, the rain came harder than usual. The city blurred behind the window, the power flickered, and the lights went out. Liam laughed softly in the dark. Well, guess that's one way to end movie night. Ethan found a candle, the flame spilling gold across their faces. They sat across from each other at the kitchen table, the flicker stretching shadows along the walls. Can I ask you something? Liam's voice was low, uncertain. Sure. Back when we first met, Liam began, you said you weren't really dating. But, is there someone you're into? The question startled Ethan, though his tone wasn't teasing, it was quiet, almost protective. No, Ethan said after a beat. Not really. Liam's gaze held steady. Is that because of someone? Or because you just haven't met the right person? Ethan hesitated. The candlelight made everything softer, easier to say yet harder to take back. He breathed out slowly. It's because most people wouldn't understand. Liam's brows drew together slightly. What wouldn't they understand? Ethan's chest tightened. There it was, the moment he'd rehearsed and avoided in equal measure. That I'm gay. The words landed quietly. The silence that followed was long but not cold. Liam leaned back, eyes fixed on him, expression unreadable. You could have told me, he said finally, his tone calm. I didn't want things to get weird. Ethan admitted, they're not weird, Liam said softly. I mean, it's new information, but it doesn't change who you are. Relief washed through Ethan, mingled with disbelief. He searched Liam's face for discomfort, for the familiar shift that usually followed that confession. But all he saw was sincerity. Liam smiled faintly. Honestly, I kind of guessed. Ethan blinked. You did? Yeah. You look at people differently, Liam said, then laughed under his breath. I just didn't know if I was imagining it. Ethan's cheeks warmed. Guess you weren't. Something unspoken lingered in the air after that. They sat in the dim light, both pretending not to notice the quiet gravity between them. Days passed, and neither mentioned that conversation again, but everything changed in small, imperceptible ways. Liam seemed more at ease around him now, less guarded, more open. He'd lean closer when they talked, sometimes resting a hand on Ethan's shoulder when he laughed that it felt dangerous and effortless at once. Then Sophie called again. Ethan heard her voice through Liam's phone one evening, soft and insistent. Liam paced the hallway, voice low, conflicted. When he hung up, he didn't speak for a while. Everything okay? Ethan asked. She wants to meet, Liam said. Says she wants to talk things through. And do you want that? Liam exhaled, rubbing his jaw. I don't know. Maybe it's better if I get some closure. Ethan nodded, though his stomach tightened. Maybe. Liam studied him for a long moment. You sound unconvinced. I just think closure's one of those things people say when they want to feel less guilty, Ethan said quietly. Liam gave a small, humorless smile. You're probably right. The next night, Liam came home late. The scent of rain followed him, his shirt damp, hair tousled. Ethan was half asleep on the couch, but the sound of the door woke him. How did it go? Ethan asked, voice groggy. Liam hesitated before answering. She's with someone else. Ethan sat up. I'm sorry. Don't be. Liam's voice cracked slightly. I thought I'd feel angry, but I just feel empty. He dropped onto the couch beside Ethan, leaning forward with his elbows on his knees. You ever feel like you're supposed to want something, but when it's right in front of you, it feels wrong? Ethan's heart pounded. More often than I'd like. Liam turned his head slowly, eyes meeting his. The distance between them felt smaller than it was. You've been the one person I could talk to about anything, he said softly. You make things make sense. Ethan swallowed hard. That's what friends are for. Liam nodded, though his gaze didn't move. His hand brushed Ethan's briefly on the couch, and neither of them pulled away. The touch lingered, a quiet, burning pause, then Liam exhaled, breaking the silence. I shouldn't, it's okay, Ethan said quickly, though his pulse was thundering. Liam shook his head. No, it's not. You make me feel something I shouldn't. His voice was rough, almost pleading that he stood abruptly, pacing a few steps toward the window. The rain outside caught the light, scattering across his reflection. I don't even know what I'm doing, he said, almost to himself. Ethan sat frozen, words tangled in his throat. He wanted to tell him that feelings didn't have rules, that this, whatever it was, wasn't wrong. But before he could, Liam turned. I need to clear my head, he said, already reaching for his jacket. Ethan watched him leave, the door closing softly behind. The apartment fell silent again, the kind of silence that stretched and echoed. Ethan stared at the empty couch, the imprint of what almost happened hanging like smoke in the air. That he didn't know if Liam would come back tonight. He didn't know what they'd say when he did. But as the rain continued outside, Ethan understood one thing with painful clarity: something between them had crossed a line, and there was no going back. Ethan didn't sleep that night. The rain had stopped, but the quiet that followed was louder than thunder. He sat on the couch until morning, the half-drunk mug of tea beside him gone cold. Every sound, the hum of the fridge, the creak of the pipes, felt too sharp. Liam's absence pressed into the apartment like a weight. When the front door finally opened near sunrise, Ethan's pulse quickened despite himself. Liam stepped inside, eyes tired, hair disheveled, jacket damp from the mist. He paused when he saw Ethan awake. Neither spoke for several seconds. You didn't have to wait up, Liam said softly. I couldn't sleep. Liam nodded, setting his keys on the counter. He looked exhausted, not just from the night but from something deeper. I just drove for a while. Needed to think. Ethan's voice was low, careful. Did it help? Liam exhaled through his nose, uncertain. A little. I'm sorry for what I said. You don't have to apologize, Ethan replied. I do, Liam insisted. You didn't deserve that. I shouldn't have made you feel uncomfortable. Ethan looked at him steadily. You didn't. I just don't know what it meant. Liam's jaw tightened. Neither do I. For a while, they just stood there, the tension between them fragile and heavy. Then Liam ran a hand through his hair and muttered, I'm gonna crash for a few hours. He disappeared into his room without another word, leaving Ethan alone again with questions that refused to quiet. Days passed in uneasy rhythm. They spoke less, smiled less. The warmth that once filled the apartment had turned brittle. Ethan tried to convince himself that space was necessary, that silence might fix what words could not. But every time he saw Liam, the faint bruise of sleeplessness under his eyes, the way he hesitated before speaking, Ethan's chest ached that he found himself replaying their last conversation in his head, searching for what he might have misunderstood. Maybe Liam hadn't meant anything by it. Maybe it had all been loneliness disguised as something else. Yet, no matter how many ways he reasoned it, Ethan couldn't ignore the truth he'd felt in that brief, charged moment. Something real had flickered between them, and now both were pretending it hadn't. One evening, a few days later, Ethan came home to find Liam sitting at the kitchen table, a folded letter beside him and a half-empty glass of water. The air smelled faintly of rain again. Liam looked up, his expression unreadable. Hey, he said quietly, hey. Ethan hesitated. You okay? Liam gave a short laugh that wasn't really a laugh. Sophie called. Said she wants to meet for dinner. She said she needs closure. Ethan leaned against the counter. You're going. I think I should, Liam said after a pause. Not because I expect anything. I just need to face it, you know. End it properly. Ethan nodded slowly, though his stomach turned. Yeah. Maybe that's good. Liam studied him for a long moment, then said, "You make everything sound reasonable, even when it's not." Ethan managed a faint smile. Occupational hazard of being the quiet one. Liam's lips twitched in a ghost of a grin. You're more than that. Then he stood, tucking the letter into his jacket. I'll be back later. Ethan wanted to say something, anything, to make him stay. But the words stuck. So he only nodded and watched Liam walk out the door. The hours crawled by. The city outside buzzed faintly, but inside, time felt suspended. When the lock finally clicked after midnight, Ethan's heart lurched. Liam stepped inside, slower this time. "She's seeing someone," he said flatly, setting his keys down. He was there. She introduced us. Ethan frowned. That's cruel. Liam shook his head. No, it's honest. She's moved on. I just didn't realize I already had two. Ethan's breath caught. What do you mean? Liam looked at him then, really looked, and Ethan saw something stripped of all pretense. It's you, Liam said quietly. You've been in my head for weeks. Every time I tried to figure out what I wanted, it came back to you. Ethan's mind raced, but words failed. Liam, you don't know what you're saying. I do, Liam said, stepping closer. I'm not pretending this makes sense. It doesn't. But when I'm with you, everything else feels less complicated. Ethan's pulse thundered. You're confused. You just got hurt. Maybe, Liam admitted, his voice unsteady. But it doesn't change what's real. The distance between them closed until Ethan could feel the warmth of his breath. For a moment, neither moved. The silence between them held everything: fear, longing, confusion. Then Ethan shook his head, stepping back. Don't do this unless you're sure. Liam's expression faltered, torn between wanting and restraint. I'm never sure of anything, he said. But I'm tired of pretending I don't feel this. Ethan's voice cracked. And what happens when you wake up and realize it was just loneliness? What happens then? Liam opened his mouth, then closed it again. The answer didn't come. Instead, he looked down, defeated. You're right. I don't know. He turned away, gripping the back of the chair as if to steady himself. I think I need to figure out who I am before I mess up anyone else's life. Ethan stared at him, every word carving a hollow in his chest. If that's what you need. It is, Liam said, his voice barely audible. The next morning, Liam's things were packed. Ethan woke to find the kitchen counter spotless except for a folded note and Liam's gray hoodie draped over the chair. The note was short. You helped me see a part of myself I didn't know existed. I don't know what to do with it yet. But thank you for being patient when I didn't deserve it. Ethan read it twice, then set it down. The apartment felt emptier than it ever had before. Weeks slipped into months. Ethan kept working, kept moving forward, but traces of Liam lingered in small ways: the smell of his cologne in the hallway, a playlist left on Ethan's phone, a coffee mug Liam always used. Slowly, the ache dulled into something quieter, something like acceptance. One evening, Noah called. They hadn't spoken much since the move. Hey, Noah said, I ran into Liam at the gym. Ethan froze. Yeah. He seems different. Calmer, maybe. Said he's been doing a lot of thinking. Didn't say much else, but he asked how you were. Ethan smiled faintly. Tell him I'm good. After hanging up, he sat by the window, watching the city lights shimmer against the glass. The air outside was still, the kind of stillness that follows storms. That he thought about Liam, about what had almost happened, what had broken, and what had healed in its wake. There was no bitterness, just a quiet gratitude for the truth they'd stumbled into, even if it had nowhere to go. Sometimes, love wasn't about possession or permanence. Sometimes, it was the moment you realized someone had changed you, even if they couldn't stay. Ethan reached for the gray hoodie still hanging by the door and pulled it close, breathing in the faint trace of rain that hadn't quite faded. He was the first man I loved who couldn't love me back, Ethan whispered to the empty room. And somehow, that taught me what love really is. Outside, the night deepened. Inside, the silence finally felt like peace.